यस 2 दिने कार्यक्रमको अन्तिम सेसन ट्रान्जिसन टु कार्बन नेट न्युट्रल इकोनोमी रहेको छ। सेसनमा जानुपूर्वक म यस कार्यक्रम मल्टी स्टेक होल्डर डायलग अन क्लाइमेट चेन्ज सगरमाथा संवाद सचिवालयद्वारा अनुमोदित गरिएको तथा इन्स्टिट्युट अफ स्ट्रेटेजिक एन्ड सोसियो इकोनोमिक रिसर्चबाट सञ्चालन भइरहेको कुराहरू यहाँलाई पुनः जानकारी गराउन चाहे र यसका साथसाथै यस कार्यक्रमका प्रायोजकहरू नेपाल इन्भेस्टमेन्ट मेगा ब्याङ्क, प्रभु ब्याङ्क, हिमालयन ब्याङ्क लिमिटेड, NIC एसिया ब्याङ्क, राष्ट्रिय वाणिज्य ब्याङ्क, नबिल ब्याङ्क तथा वर्ल्ड लिङ्क र यस सँगसँगै द एसिया फाउन्डेसनको पनि सहयोग रहेको यहाँहरूलाई जानकारी गराउन चाहे। अब हामी हाम्रो अन्तिम सेसनतर्फ अगाडि बढौँ। यस अन्तिम सेसनलाई मोडरेट गरिदिनु हुन म नेपाल सरकारमा लामो समय बिताउनु भएका, जलस्रोत क्षेत्रमा लामो समय बिताउनु भएका नेपाल सरकारका पूर्व सचिव अनुप कुमार उपाध्यायज्यूलाई मोडरेसन गरिदिनु हुन म अनुरोध गर्दछु।
यहाँहरू सबैलाई नमस्कार। आज हामी यो 2 दिने कार्यक्रमको अन्तिम सेसनमा छौँ र खाना पछिको समय भए पनि यहाँहरूलाई हामी जागरुक बनाउँदै यो छलफललाई अगाडि बढाउने प्रयासमा लाग्ने नै छौँ। मैले यो ट्रान्जिसन टु कार्बन न्युट्रल इकोनोमीको यो सेसनमा म सिधै नै हाम्रो आदरणीय व्यक्तित्व हुनुहुन्छ डाक्टर बिन्दु लोहनी सर, उहाँलाई आफ्नो किनोट स्पिचको लागि म आग्रह गर्छु।
Thank you very much. I've been listening since yesterday, every session. And I came to the conclusion after lunch that everything that has to be said has been said. And therefore I was thinking whatever I had prepared may not be relevant. Nonetheless, when I know, so I'm going to try to say something which might have been said before, but might not have been said the way it has been said. Something that might not have been said, and I will say it. Something which might be different than the way it's been interpreted, but it will be the views based on my experience, mostly globally, regionally. But what I'm going to say, I believe, has some relevance to Nepal. Where is it not relevant? There are a lot of experts here who will be able to say this is not relevant. So with that background, I just want to ask myself, in fact, I asked myself 3 questions. First, where is Nepal today in terms of being carbon neutral economy? And then I also added what roadmap we may need, what institutional architecture we may need if we want to get there. Second question to me is what Nepal needs to do. Based on my experience that I've seen in the Asia-Pacific region and globally, I may not be as knowledgeable as some of you, but I want to tell you what I think would be right things to do if we want to do. We may have a desire not to do, that's a different matter. The third, what are the top priority actions? Of course, you need to do everything, but what are the top priority actions we will need to take, we should take, to meet carbon neutral economy and the commitment? Now, just to set the context, I'm not going to say much on this, it's been said many times in this conference. There is, based on the scientific studies, there is a global understanding that about half of today's emissions, about 45%, has to be reduced by 2030 globally. If we want to follow the 1.5 degree warming, we need to reduce about 50% and become carbon neutral by 2050. This is science. This is on the IPCC report, special report on 1.5 degrees centigrade. This is given. Now, globally, what are the countries globally doing this? Many have committed, okay, we'll do that by 2050. They will do the net zero emissions by mid-century. Some have even said we will do it before that. And I will tell you why some countries would want to do it before. And what are some of the pillars, top areas they are focusing in order to meet their net carbon, net emission by 2050? What are they doing? The pillars, the key pillars, the key focus they're doing is decarbonizing the energy sector, most important, globally. Industry, decarbonizing the industries. It may not be as relevant to us, but globally, very relevant. Decarbonizing the transport sector. Looking at the agriculture sector, we'll hear later from Yogendraji on this. Enhancing carbon sink. We talked a lot today about carbon sink. We are 45% of the country is forest. But how good is that forest in terms of the sink? We don't know. Whether all of them are that good, but if you compare the volume, the area of the coverage of Nepal, it's very small. 45% globally is very, very small. Compared to Indonesia, Brazil, it's very small. But still very useful to keep in mind that it is our forest and we want to make the most use of it. Now, Nepal, it's been said so many times, Nepal has made a commitment to net zero target by 2045. I mean, this is a mother's statement by now. Yesterday, I heard someone making a comment. When China says it will meet its net zero commitment by 2060, and India 2070, why we have to commit to 2045? In my opinion, this thinking process is wrong. We have to think, when can we do it? When will it be possible? If we do it, what will be beneficial to the country? And just to compare, say that India does 2070, 60 is not a valid way of thinking. We need to think, when can we do it? Why we should do it? What is beneficial to it? So that question yesterday, I personally think it was out of line, at least out of line in my way of thinking. Of course, if you want to do carbon neutral, you've got to look at everything. Every sector is important, small or big. You need to go carbon friendly and decarbonize. But there are always some key sectors which will have maximum impact. And I would like to mention to you 5 such sectors which I think are very relevant for Nepal, where if we miss that, we will not get there. If we did that, we'll get the maximum benefit out of it in terms of getting our target done. The first, we call AFOLU, you know this language in the UNFCCC term, agriculture, forestry, and other land use. This contributes, in my opinion, close to, you may correct me the data, 70–80% of the greenhouse emission is mainly from this in Nepal. Almost 70–80%. You can correct me later with your facts. Agriculture. We talk a lot about forestry in this meeting. We didn't talk about agriculture. Very important. Emission from agriculture is livestock, etc., included, probably more than 50%, right? Based on my old data. We need to focus that. We have, because Nepal, the non-CO2 gases constitute almost 70% emissions, non-CO2. So this is missing discussions so far. I think Yogendraji will address that. The second sector, which has been talked a lot, is the energy sector. We talk about hydro, no question, hydro is very, very important, but let's not forget, almost 60%, close to that, we don't have Navraji to correct the right number, the biomass use in this country is very high, almost 60%. 51% of the households still are cooking in firewood. So therefore, to say that we are hydro, and yes, we need hydro, to electrifying the whole country by hydro will take a long, long time. Long, long time. I mean, the speed and the action is just inadequate. The third sector, which is very important, is the transport and the urban sector. The transport emissions has been talked about a lot. We want to go to the EVs, electrifying the buses, etc. Yes, I think based on what I know, what I have read, what I have seen, the studies, EV is a possible transition, energy transition for Nepal, especially in the cities. We should also start thinking about connecting wider distances even with electric connection sector, and promoting the clean fuel is very, very important. In the urban sector, many countries, some 200, 300, 400 cities, I don't have the exact number now, are going carbon neutral. I think this is something the mayors need to think about it. Can I go carbon neutral? It's happening as we talk in many, many countries. The fourth sector is the industrial sector. We have cement, we have iron, and others. We have even brick kilns. They all need to be told that you someday need to be thinking about being carbon neutral, or try to find ways to offset your emission, or based on the discussion, just the session before this, what would happen if there's a global price on carbon? How would you survive? You need to start looking at those shadow prices now. I think we discussed that in the last sessions a lot. We also talk about the SMEs. There was a comment from the private sector. It's very difficult. We don't have the awareness in the last sessions. In the SMEs, out of the SMEs is small. But what I have seen in the countries that I have worked, in big countries like China, etc., this is where you can reduce the lot. Unlike what was said in the last session, this is where there is very difficult. If there is why SMEs have the biggest opportunities by switching, by changing their technologies, you can get lots of carb CO2, clean environment, product quality gets better, and you become exportable. I have done firsthand this kind of experience myself in China, where the role of the government was to make sure those SMEs became environmentally friendly, climate friendly, produce better quality, but those SMEs didn't have money. So therefore, the role of the government became very important. Multilateral agencies like mine, ADB, World Bank, have provided softer, cheaper money for that kind of purpose. I'm not selling the loans anymore because I don't work anymore, I'm retired, but this is how it was done. The fifth sector is the waste management. The solid waste methane. Methane, as you know, is almost more than 20 times more harmful than the CO2. And you also get more money if you can sell, you can actually reduce methane. So the methane, solid waste management and the industrial waste management is a very important sector, especially because, look at the cities. I was looking, if my memory is correct, the Kathmandu Valley produces almost 1/3 of the GDP, a little bit more. 1/3 of the GDP. So 1/3 of the country's money is made here, the employment is made here. Therefore, the important to look at the urban waste to energy and those options, which I think we haven't done that yet. The other buzzword that I like to put in, which has not been mentioned in this seminar yet, is importance of circular economy. Looking at from the beginning to the end. We talk about 3R, reduce, reuse, recycle. We talk about SCP, sustainable consumption and production. But the whole thing is piece of what we like to call a circular economy. I think the principle of circular economy is needed, in my opinion, in this country, like we have done in many other countries. So what can we do about it? What can we do? Having said this, I'm going to make some quick policy suggestions. It's been made before maybe, but I'm going to say this based on my own personal experience. What policy would be extremely useful to become a carbon neutral country or economy by 2040 or even 2050? One thing you definitely need is a policy on accelerating renewable energy transition. Although we say we're a hydro country, we have nothing to do it, no. We could phase out from the fossil fuel. We could think someday of LPG cooking replacement by energy cooking. That'll be a big leap forward. It also means we don't have to import, which we don't have. We also have the possibility of using lots of biogas. I mean, we have done some. It's not that we haven't done. The scale at which the biogas could be promoted in this country until the time we become fully electrified is huge. We haven't tapped that. And this is where you can also get the carbon credits and carbon price sector. I think we are very hydrocentric, which is good, which is important. In my opinion, we need to do more on solar. The current policies, whether you call fit-in tariff, subsidy, it is not attractive for the private sector to invest. Whereas this is a sector globally where private sector is happy to invest because the returns are good. And if this needs a feed-in tariff arrangement, a policy change, viability gap, whatever it is, I personally believe you should do it. Madhuji mentioned 1% tax on the gasoline. He said he doesn't know where that money goes. I would put this money here. And I'm very familiar with coming from a multilateral bank perspective. Whatever tax we get, it goes to the kitty and then you start distributing. But we have also done. I do remember projects in many countries where we created a road fund, including in this country. We have a road fund, so that there will be money for maintenance. Similarly, we can have a money which we collect maybe out of the gasoline to put in the solar. I think, please, this will make energy available much, much sooner throughout the whole country than the hydro can do it. In 6 months, you can do so much more than what hydro can do in 5 years. And make sure this will be attractive to the private sector to do it. They will do it, because we have enough evidence in the region. The second I said about the decarbonize transport sector and promote carbon neutrality path. This is possible. It means promoting electric vehicles. Nepal has a very good track record of EV penetration. But we have a very poor policy on what to do with the tax, sometime up, sometime down, whether we give subsidy or not, how much infrastructure to build for charging, etc. So we just do not have a clear picture on that. I think we also need to start thinking about the whole, someday think of a timeline based on a study when we can actually get rid of the fossil fuel vehicles, especially in the urban areas. Because India plans to do that by 2030, I think, 30 or 35, they want to have 30% of their vehicles will be EVs. So if I were to make a policy, my cars are mostly going to come from India, whether it is a Japanese car or Korean car, they are made there mostly. So I would take a policy that I will be more EV, all EV residential or personal vehicles by 2030, 2035. But I will do a small study, whether it's 35 or 30 or 40 or 5. Next area policy is energy efficiency. It didn't come out very well in this conference. Yesterday and today, nobody talked about the importance of energy efficiency. Huge opportunity. Nobody knows about it. Huge opportunity. Let me tell you simple things. When I go buy a TV like that, I only think about 48-inch price so much, 36-inch price so much. But if you compare 38 inches and 48 inches and look at the energy consumption at the back, you may be paying more more for a 48 inches than 36 inches. Refrigerators. There is no reason why Nepal should take a less energy efficient refrigerator or a washing machine, on and on. And the end use energy opportunity is huge. We haven't taken to that. This is really quick money making. We also could do a lot on the building codes. If I had to approve a building like this, I used to work in the building housing ministry once, 55 years ago, maybe. Today, if I were to do it, I would put up a code and say, please try to reduce as much as possible, be energy efficient, try to make it green building as much as possible. I'll make that as a requirement. Many countries are doing that already. Fourth, which Yogendraji will talk a lot, sustainable agriculture, forest, and land use. I think it's been discussed this morning, we don't have sustainable forestry thinking at all. You go to Canada, Scandinavian country, they have a 100-year cycle. They cut trees, they make pulp, they make furniture, they add to the GDP. They also protect a lot. I think something is wrong in our system that if it's a tree, you can't touch. I think the thinking on this has to completely change. I personally believe we don't probably have a sustainable forestry management strategy at all. And agriculture, of course, we need to think about implementing climate-smart agriculture practice. I'm not going to talk much about it. I guess you'll talk more about it later. Having said this, the next one to me is, I repeat again, promote circular economy. Many countries adopted, China, India, many countries have accepted, move away from reduce, reuse, recycle to even in industry and in the urban areas to circular economy. Carbon pricing was talked in the last session. I'm a strong believer we should start looking at now in the context of this industrial decarbonization. Now, I will leave it here first. Then I want to talk about what are some of our challenges. These are some of the policies and the actions that we are supposed to take. What are our challenges? I'll mention about 5 only. One, everybody, in every session, they talk about finance, financial constraint. And what we heard here is correct. What we have, we're not able to spend it wisely. I'm from ADB. Madhuji knows our disbursement rate is not even 25 sometimes, 25%. So you have money you can't spend. That's one scenario, which is not a good scenario. And if you can't spend, nobody gives you more. Second scenario is, we also do not have mechanism to get all those available goodies, bilateral, multilateral, etc., because our system is not strong enough. I could look at this from when I was the ADB, that we know where to go and tap this money, but then we should have ideas, program, project, where to spend on. If I say today, okay, I give you $2 billion, are we ready to, anybody ready to tell me, this is how we spend $2 billion? We don't have that. So therefore, we must have a very strong team, group, ideally in the Ministry of Finance, they know where the monies are, and bring all the sector people and identify those projects we would like to do for the sake of the country, for carbon neutrality, for the benefit of the people, if we have money. That kind of exercise is lacking. We also say there's not enough money. Now, let me give you my own past experience of ADB. ADB said, when I was there and the climate in charge, we did about $3 billion a year. By the time I left there, it was 5. Today they have made a commitment that we will invest, we meaning today, now they, no longer me, will invest $30 billion on climate by 2030. There's plenty of money. It's not just for the additional GCF money, it's for projects like energy, transport, urban, smart agriculture, etc., etc. So the same sectors, if you can turn that into a climate-friendly project, there is plenty of money. And therefore, one of the things we need to do is tell every ministry, every sector to make your project carbon-friendly, and there's money. So that is the financial part. But of course, if we need to raise money, we can raise money. We can introduce a carbon tax. which to some extent carbon pricing. We can go for blended financing. We can even throw a green bond. If I think I'm looking at Soban, you wrote an article on this green bond. It's all possible. But the mindset that we need is, if I had this more money, where I would put it. That's not very clear. But we need to be clear. Someone said we need an investment plan this morning. The second challenge we have, which has been said many times also, and I'll say it again, is the technological and capacity limitation. Many of the technology we use, we shouldn't be using at all. Because the mindset that we require in the technology space is adopt, adapt, or leapfrog. Adopt meaning something is so good, I'm so behind, just take it. Forget it, throw the old ones. It's just like, this is no good, throw it. No point trying to play with those inefficient technologies. If it is something so good there, I want to bring it, but it doesn't fit me to my local, adapt it. Adjust it, adapt it. But if it is so bad, our situation is so bad, people are moving to the AI space, etc., it's no use trying to play around with my technology. They throw it and get leapfrog it. That's the mindset and the policy that I think will be required. A simple example I can give you, look at the traffic light. I don't believe in the 21st century, I pity those policemen who really manage the traffic, inhaling those air pollutions, etc. I don't believe they can manage better than a computerized AI screen which will tell you there are 100 cars this way, 20 this way. It will manage which should move fast. It will be energy efficient, less traffic, productivity gains. 2 to 3% GDP gain has been produced in many cities in the world. If this, you can't even put that technology, you don't need to think twice. It should have been done, it could be done, and leapfrog it. Don't try to play around, add few more like that. Capacity building, again, it's been said, we don't have capacity. My conclusion on this is my thesis on this is there are lots of capable people in Nepal, individually, institutionally weak. I may be wrong on this, I could be correct. Institutionally weak, individually excellent. So how do you put that? That means it's the role of the government has to say, how do I create these retired secretaries, Madhu, etc., to work even harder after they leave, if they have the knowledge, which happens all the time in many countries. It doesn't happen here. So there are models that I could talk the whole day, how Korea does it, how Japan does it, how China does it, but that's not for today. And that takes me now to the energy sector transition, once again to mention that we do have regulatory constraints, capacity constraints, thinking constraints, and that, in my opinion, needs to be done. And the last point that challenge for us is, which has been said yesterday by former Chief Justice, also said the research and development, R&D. There's no research. I mean, if you don't have research, how can you really make judgment? Gut feeling, climate, energy sector is the area. You can work with gut feeling on technologies. You can be thinking what will happen to my glacier. You know, if you want to save glacier, create a glacier research center to get the global scientists to work on it. By God, somebody will fund this. I have a feeling. Everybody is interested in this. Create one. If we don't know anything about the carbon pricing that we say, create a group research. Say, okay, what do we need to do? Promote the R&D. I look at the R&D budget in my last presentation, very low, one of the lowest, 0.10% of the GDP. Most developed countries will put 3 to 5%. We need at least 1 to 2% of the GDP put in research, and give this research, create research cells, not all in the government, create in universities, think tanks, etc. Let them do the research with government wants it, or useful to the country, as well as some independent research. I think that is, in my opinion, a constraint. Now, finally concluding, I just put myself a question to myself. If I had to make top 5 transformational actions for Nepal carbon neutrality by 2040, what would I do? And therefore, what I do doesn't necessarily be very pleasant, maybe agreeable to you, but this is what I think I would do. 1, I will diversify renewables beyond hydropower. I said that before. I would go for a very big solar program, renewable energies, solar, wind, biogas, in a massive way. This will be faster than trying to meet the energy by hydro. It doesn't mean that we don't need hydro, we do. But this will be much, much faster. The power of a renewable energy revolution has not been exploited in this country. We just don't need to go too far. Go to China, go to India. These guys have done amazing things in this one. They can do it. It's not difficult. It's not rocket science. Private sector can do that. Make it favorable for them to be able to do that. Decarbonize transport sector. I would do it. I would phase out fossil fuel vehicle by, I don't know what date. I will do the study. To me, it will be around 2035 because India said they're going to not produce after a certain date. So that's very simple. Or I'll do some studies, say by 2035, 40 is feasible, finish. Fossil fuel personal vehicles out in this country because we don't manufacture. I don't lose. I don't know. And I'm not a combustion engine manufacturer, so I don't need to worry about it. It's not going to affect me. It will help us with the importing of the oil and balance of payment, etc., etc. I would even ban, therefore, or if not ban, put a timetable to terminate fossil fuel vehicle by a certain date. Whatever that day we can study, 35, 40, 45, if it's the 45 charge. I will stabilize EV tax policies to avoid market confusion. By gosh, in the last couple of times, I've seen a lot of confusion up and down in the EVs. EVs across the border, EVs sitting inside the country. I mean, this is ridiculous. Nowhere it happens. It shouldn't happen here. We are smart people. It shouldn't. Put a EV tax, say this is what it is for the until 2045, and it will not be changed. The private sector will react. And they know they're smart, they will do it. Which means that electrify all transport by 2035, 2040, 45. I would do 35 based on my judgment, but I need to do a little study whether it'll be 40 or 45. But I will do it. Electrify all transport, including the buses. Third, I will ask mayors, my mayor from the Lalitpur is not here today, but to start thinking about building carbon neutral positive cities. I'm advisor to Yokohama City Mayor, and they have said, okay, we will be a carbon neutral city by 2050. It's doable in Japan. There are 200 plus cities that are already signed. Achirya Babaji has been there in Yokohama many times. He knows about it. And I think if we make a policy and encourage them, say by 2045, I will have 5, 6 cities, pilot cities are carbon neutral. It's a doable goal, and I would do it. I would also mandate net zero buildings. Many buildings are in the city. Not every building possible. New buildings, many big buildings, net zero. If they can't be net zero, they will put renewable, they will buy BRs, CRs, etc., try to be net zero. Many companies globally are net, even Apple, Microsoft are net zero. They buy renewable somewhere, they forest sink somewhere, and so on and so forth. And why not? Fourth, slash agriculture methane. This is Yogendra's area. I would cut down to 50%. It's doable. My estimate. These are all my thumb rule calculations based on my old experience. But we will need to do the study. Whether it's 40 or 50, 60, it's a matter of detail. I think we can do that, 50%. And Dubai Gas is a very big success story here. Many people have got the carbon credit for this. I would make 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 in massive scale biogases until the time we're able to electrify them. This is a doable job. And it will make money, it will give you carbon credit as well. And the forest side, I would again repeat, we will need to strengthen the forest conservation definitely, and make sure those conservation areas which needs to be protected are not affected by the climate change. If affected, we need to think about the adaptation measures. But in addition to that, the sustainable forest management, to be able to use forests for productive use without affecting the environmental concerns, should be improved, in my opinion. And of course, we need to mobilize resources. I've talked about mobilizing resources many ways. I won't say, but the critical to all of these, then I started saying, if I needed to be able, can I do this under the current arrangement? The institutional and the governance architecture, my gut feeling says no. No. Then what I would suggest is the following. I think the current institutional and enforcement structure is inadequate, insufficient to address these big issues. Of course, we do have the Environment Protection Act, which was mentioned, Climate Change Policy Act, sector policies. But I would do something like what Singapore has done, which is establish a national climate authority. It's under the Prime Minister. Of course, there's only a council here, with no powerful. It is a very powerful, very pragmatic council. I like the Singapore Climate Action Secretariat called NCSS, which was established under the Prime Minister. It's a strategy, it makes strategy to say, and tells the cabinet and the line agency, energy, water, transport sector, this is what you will do it. And they will prepare, if I've got a roadmap for 2045 for carbon neutrality, the agriculture department will prepare, how do I become carbon neutral in my sector, in the carbon sector? How would I respond to that? We don't have that. We need it. So that kind of thing. Also, if we want to be globally active, today I heard we have a desire to be globally engaging in the dialogue, etc. Many countries have even appointed special representative, special envoy, including China. It was a friend of mine, Mr. Shea. He used to be the China envoy. We have Senator Kerry used to be, and there are many other. Well, why not? I think if you want to take this a serious agenda, we want to be having dialogue globally and enhancing our negotiation, we can create a special envoy. I think Shankarji also said this. If I heard it right, I fully support him on this one. So in short, these are all, in my opinion, doable. This would need a very big commitment at the political level, at all levels. Of course, if we don't want to do it, we'll not do it, and we will not be carbon neutral by 2045. Thank you very much.
डाक्टर साहबको यो प्रस्तुति सुनिसकेपछि सायद अब केही छलफल गर्नुपर्ने विषय नै रहेन जस्तो छ। हामी कहाँ कहाँ अड्केका छौँ त्यहीँबाटै सुरु गर्दा हुन्छ जस्तो लाग्यो। अब म निर्वाणजीतिर जान्छु। हामी कार्बन न्युट्रल इकोनोमीतिर जम्प त गरिसक्यौँ, उद्देश्य पनि अलि चाँडै नै पुरा गर्ने राख्यौँ। सायद हामी त्यसको लागि पहिले नै तयार थियौँ, अथवा हाम्रो योगदान खासै केही नभएकोले हामी सकिहाल्छौँ भन्ने मान्यताले पनि यसले काम गरिरहेको होला। अब हाम्रो आर्थिक समृद्धिमा यो लक्ष्यले हामीलाई के कस्तो असर पार्छ, निजी क्षेत्रले यसलाई कसरी लिएको छ, यहाँको धारणा सुन्न चाहे।
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Anupji. Thank you, sir, for inviting me for this session. When I'm listening to Dr. Loni, and so many times, we were talking about target 2040, target 2047. I think a lot of people who are giving these targets won't be alive by the time we reach to that years. This is something I realized last year when I was speaking at Davos. And I was speaking in the private sector session of Alpine Economies. Where we all know now with today's session that Nepal has no choice but has to be the custodian of the third pole initiative that we are all talking about over here. I think Nepal's paying a price of a lot of the larger economies emission that is taking place. We have a lot of opportunities, low-hanging fruits already existing with us. Private sector has started to, but needs to do a lot more work. For example, I think private sector ko intervention or private sector ko execution towards the net neutral, carbon neutral economy are simple examples of simple policies that are made by the government. Dr. Loni le pani bhannubhayo ki Nepal's got the highest penetration and the fastest growth rate of electric vehicles. Now, our government has made a commitment that by 2030, 30% of our vehicles would be EV. This policy was made almost a year and a half, 2 years ago, and the private sector has already adopted it through bringing in large amount of electric vehicles, which is resulting to lower import of fossil fuel, which is resulting to higher consumption of our own renewable energy, which is leading to directly to a better environment that is happening. As a private sector user, I think the current program and subsidies that the government has got along with multilateral partners for solar implementation is also very, very attractive. I myself and my company are using a hybrid of renewable energy, hydropower based, and replacing all the fossil fuel, biofuel, husk based power into solar. My return on investment on solar panels in my factory is in excess of 30-35%. What better do private sector need to be able to mobilize and grow the solar panel movement in Nepal? Amro carbon credits, we are talking more and more about it, but other countries are already capitalizing on the carbon credits that Nepal needs to earn. The manufacturer, for example, of electric vehicles in China are already monetizing the carbon credits that will be saved during the usage of the electric vehicles in Nepal. Why aren't we able to do it? Again, policy, strong policy hasn't come. We've got already commitments on various level of industrial, greenhouse, smart cities, smart buildings in our COP32. And the National Planning Commission has a really well-crafted plan, year-on-year plan for mitigating and achieving this. We just need to follow that properly. We just need to have the right policies accordingly. Our EV ko growth bo, the impact on environment is good, but because of the deficit in the budget, now EVs will be more taxed. So again, that industry will go down. So this is a very catch-22 situation the private sector always gets on. Green bond has already been issued 4 years ago in the New York Stock Exchange from Nepal. We are already in Nepal, private sectors importing not by choice, but the whole world is already shifting towards energy efficient consumer products. ACs, Ola, refrigerators, Ola, all of that. One big opportunity, except for a consistent policy that will help private sector execute this, is very simply, the tariff war that we are all seeing between America, China, India. I think just seeing the different sectors there and how we are able to bring that into our country's contribution to our economy themselves will open up the doors to many different things, especially relating to projects and sectors leading to a carbon neutral scenario. This is a big opportunity for us that we are not looking at. When I attended a class in Harvard Business School, the professor came in and said, what's the definition of R&D? And everyone was obviously saying research and development. He says, no, in today's world, the definition of R&D is rip and duplicate. If a country, if an economy, if someone has already tried, tested the technology, the business model, the right environment properly in that particular geography or sector, we should just bring that in and adopt it in our country. We don't need to really rack our brain or spend money on research and development. So again, those technologies and ideas already exist. We just have to take it with the right policy, which means the right environment. We just need to execute it. So today, the tools exist for private sector, especially to monetize all of this. One thing private sector needs to do is just be able to execute ESG, and that jati policy banaya pani, it's not going to happen. Private sector needs to feel responsible for doing their part for the environment, and one by one needs to be able to adhere to having the entire governance based on ESG. That is why our foundation has taken a lead, and we've tied up with almost 25-30 private sector from around the region. Almost 25-30 multilateral agencies around this region who've already got knowledge, expertise. We've tied up with government institutions, they're doing the Sagarmatha Sambad and doing some exceptionally good work over there. What will be executed is something else, but we are seeing a lot of good work and knowledge is being generated out of there. So keeping all of these sectors, we are trying to start this movement called Third Pole Initiative with all the different stakeholders as part of it. Again, we talk about the GCF, Global Climate Fund, where majority of the capital is being deployed to island countries. But unless we make our voices heard at the global level, those kind of dollars are not going to come in for food security, for all the things that Dr. Loney is talking about. So we are, as a private sector, trying to play that initiative to start this this summit very, very soon. But individually, I think private sector is ready to do their part. There's a lot more needs to be done. Look at Bhutan as an example. They have created an entire new city called the Geluful Mindfulness City based on the net zero slogan. In Bhutan in 2006-07, they allowed crypto mining, not crypto trading, crypto mining using hydropower. And the whole world wants to shift from fossil fuel to renewable energy crypto mining. At that time, the Bhutan government had invested close to $250–300 million. Today, that value is almost $7 billion. So that is timely taking those decisions and adopting and implementing opportunities which are low-hanging fruits. So timely being agile and adaptive and we cannot afford adaptability. We need leapfrog approaches if we have to catch up to the 2040, 2047 targets that we have. But there's a lot that is being done. I think everything centers around policies. One right policy can just open up doors and change the environment quite a lot. And I think private sector needs to learn from the best practices, needs to be committed themselves that they want to do this, because the tools, expertise, know-how, wisdom, everything exists. We just need to be able to capitalize on all of that. Thank you.
खाद्य सुरक्षा, ऊर्जा सुरक्षा एउटा नर्मल राज्यका जिम्मेदारीहरू हुन् र अहिलेको हाम्रो अवस्थिति समुद्र सतहबाट 60 मिटरदेखिको उचाइबाट हामी सुरु गर्छौं, करिब 250 किलोमिटरको स्ट्रेचमा 8000 मिटरको उचाइमा पुग्छौं र यतातिर हामीले विद्युत क्षेत्रमा त यसलाई हामीले वरदानकै रूपमा लिन्छौं। सानो स्ट्रेचमा अल्टिट्युडको डिफरेन्सले हामीलाई बिजुली निकाल्न मद्दत गर्यो। कृषिको क्षेत्रमा पनि अब यसलाई हामी सबै किसिमको बायोडाइभर्सिटी यत्रो सानो स्ट्रेचमा पायौं भनेर यसलाई हामीले एउटा प्रकृतिको वरदानकै रूपमा पनि यसलाई स्वीकार्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। यही समयमा अब क्लाइमेट चेन्जको ठुलो असर भनेको हाम्रो पानीका भण्डारहरू, जस्तै हामीले 3वटा भण्डार भन्ने गर्छौं। आइसको रूपमा बसेको एउटा भण्डार, ग्लेसियरको रूपमा बसेको, त्यसपछि सतहमा बग्ने पानी अनि जमिन मुनिको पानीको भण्डार। यिनमध्ये धेरै ठुलो असर चाहिँ आइसको रूपमा बसेको, ग्लेसियरको रूपमा बसेको भण्डारमा अलि धेरै ठुलो असर परिरहेको छ भन्ने हाम्रो बुझाइ छ। र कृषि उत्पादनमा पानीको योगदान 32–35% जस्तो हुने गर्छ भन्ने हामी एउटा मान्यता राख्छौं। र यही परिवेशमा कहिलेकाहीँ सुक्खाको समस्या, बाढी आएर डुबान पटानको समस्या, कृषियोग्य जमिनको रूपान्तरण, यो सबै परिवेशमा कृषि क्षेत्रले यससँग कसरी कोप गर्न सक्छ, हामी कसरी अगाडि बढ्नुपर्ने हुन्छ र कृषि क्षेत्रको योगदान के हुन्छ, त्यो विषयमा डाक्टर साहबको धारणा चाहे।
थ्याङ्क यू अनुप सर। मैले ज्यादै आदर गर्नुपर्ने विद्यार्थी सहभागीजीहरू, आदरणीय सहभागीजीहरू, धेरै कुराहरू त हाम्रो किनोट स्पिकर डाक्टर साहबहरू कभरेज भइसकेको छ, प्राइभेट सेक्टरको भ्यू पनि आइसकेको छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि म स्पेसिफिक टु एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरमै म फोकस गर्न चाहन्छु। म कहाँबाट सुरु गर्छु भने आज म खाना खाइरहँदाखेरि सबैलाई मैले निहालिरहेको थिएँ। केही हाम्रो युवाहरूले यसो हेर्नुभयो मेरो नजरमा, किन यसले हेरिरहेको छ भनेर मैले के ख्याल गरिरहेको थिएँ भने हाम्रो फुड ह्याबिट, त्यहाँबाट म सुरु गर्छु। हामी खाद्यान्नको कुरा अर्थात् क्लाइमेट स्मार्ट एग्रिकल्चरको कुराहरू हामीले ल्याउँला, फुड सेक्युरिटीको कुराहरू आउँछ। फुड सेक्युरिटीको कुरा आज हामीले खाइरहँदाखेरि मैले के पाएँ भने धेरै किसिमको परिकारहरू हुँदा पनि हामीले चामल चाहिँ अलिकति बढी लिइरहेको थियो अरूको तुलनामा। हाम्रो एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरको धेरै त्यहाँ 2-3 थरीको मासु नि थियो, 2 थरीको मासु नि थियो, अचारहरू थियो, परिकारहरू थुप्रै हुँदा पनि हाम्रो प्लेटमा चाहिँ आधा जस्तो भाग नभए 1/3 चाहिँ राइस नै थियो। भनेपछि अब हामीहरूको सबैभन्दा ठुलो प्रब्लम चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ फुड सेक्युरिटीको दृष्टिकोणले हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो फुड हेबिट नै हो। हामीले राइस इटर भन्ने के भन्ने म कहिलेकाहीँ भन्ने गर्छु, बिहान पनि दिउँसो पनि बेलुका पनि बढी हामी चाहिँ चामलमै निर्भर हुने भयो। अहिले हामीले हेरिरहँदाखेरि चाहिँ यसरी हामीले क्लाइमेट स्मार्ट अर्थात् यसलाई इकोनोमीलाई जोड्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो डेटाहरूले के भन्छ चाहिँ हामीले ग्लोबल हङ्गर इन्डेक्सलाई हेर्ने हो भने 2024 को डेटा हेर्ने हो भने हामी चाहिँ 68 पोजिसन छ आउट अफ 124 कन्ट्रिज। हामी चाहिँ ग्लोबल फुड सेक्युरिटीलाई हेर्ने हो भने 2022 को डेटाजलाई मात्रै हेर्ने हो भने पनि हामी 73 पोजिसन छ आउट अफ 113 कन्ट्रिज। नेपालकै कन्डिसनलाई हामीले हेर्ने हो भने हाम्रो प्रोडक्सन सिरियल क्रप्स 5वटा मेजर राइस, व्हिट, मेज, ज्वार र रागी हेर्ने हो भने 1,15,00,000 मेट्रिक टन हाम्रो प्रोडक्सन छ। आजको पपुलेसन 30 मिलियनलाई चाहिने भनेको चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ 96 लाख मेट्रिक टन मात्रै हो। हामी खाद्यान्नमा हामी आत्मनिर्भर छौँ, तर हाम्रो फुड हाम्रो खाने बानीको कारणले गर्दाखेरि हेबिटले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामी खाद्यान्नमा गाह्रो भइरहेछ र हाम्रो मेजर प्रोडक्सन्स जस्तो मेज त्यसपछि व्हिट चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ दानामा फिडमा गइरहेछ। इभेन चाहिँ राइस पनि हाम्रो चाहिँ सायद यहाँ आउने मध्ये मलाई थाहा छैन, अलिक पछाडि अगाडि बस्ने सबैको भान्सामा हाम्रो चामल पाक्दैन नेपालको प्राय गरेर। हाम्रो चामल हामीलाई चाहिँ बासमती एरोमेटिक नै चाहियो। त्यो दृष्टिकोणले अलिकति हामीलाई चाहिँ प्रब्लम चाहिँ फुड हेबिटमा छ। अब हामीले यसलाई जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ हामीले इकोनोमीमा जोड्दाखेरि चाहिँ अब हाम्रो अल्टरनेटिभ भनेको चाहिँ हामीले कृषिलाई बिग्दाखेरि ठ्याक्कै अनुसारले भन्नुभयो डाक्टर साहब, आज हाम्रो माइक्रो क्लाइमेटिक कन्डिसन छ, हामी चाहिँ हाई हिल छ, भेरी पोटेन्सियल टेम्परेट फ्रुट्सहरू एप्पल हामीले एप्रिकोटहरू देखेर सिप एन्ड याकहरूको लागि असाध्यै राम्रो छ। हाम्रो चाहिँ हिल एरिया हेर्ने भने एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरमा हेर्ने भने इकोनोमीलाई कन्ट्रिब्युसन गर्ने अर्थात् ट्रेड ब्यालेन्स गर्ने अर्थात् चाहिँ कार्बन न्युट्रलै भनौँ हाम्रो फ्रुट्सहरू र चाहिँ जस्तो टी, कार्डमम, जिन्जर, टर्मेरिकहरू असाध्यै राम्रो छ, हामीले ग्रो गर्न सक्छ। तर तराई चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ बास्केट अफ फुड ग्रेन्स भन्छौँ, राइस, व्हिट, मेजमा जान्छौँ। अब यो हाम्रो चाहिँ भूगोललाई हामीले बुझ्नु पऱ्यो। त्यो भूगोल अनुसार चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ एग्रिकल्चरलाई चाहिँ प्र्याक्टिसमा ल्याउनु पऱ्यो, हामीले प्र्याक्टिसमा ल्याउनु पऱ्यो। त्यसमा ल्याउँदाखेरि केही हामीसँग चाहिँ हामी क्लाइमेट स्मार्ट एग्रिकल्चर अर्थात् चाहिँ हामी चाहिँ नेचुरल फार्मिङ अर्थात् चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ जिरो टेलेज फार्मिङ अर्थात् ट्रेडिसनल फार्मिङ अर्थात् चाहिँ हामी चाहिँ इन्डिजियस फार्मिङ अर्थात् चाहिँ अर्ग्यानिक फार्मिङ जे भन्छौँ द्याट्स मो कार्बन न्युट्रलै भनौँ। यो फार्मिङहरूमा चाहिँ हाम्रा चाहिँ च्यालेन्जेसहरू के छन् त? हामीलाई यो च्यालेन्जेसभन्दा अलिकति हामी अगाडि आउन सकेनौँ भने गाह्रो हुन्छ। हामी चाहिँ गफ चाहिँ हामी चाहिँ क्लाइमेट स्मार्ट एग्रिकल्चर गर्नुपर्छ, प्रोग्राममा ल्याउनुपर्छ, नीतिमा ल्याउनुपर्छ एकातिर भनिरहेको छौँ, अर्कोतिर हामीले के भनिरहेको छौँ भने क्लाइमेट रेजिलियन्ट हुनुपर्छ भनिरहेको छौँ। हामीले ग्लोबल सिनारियोमा हेर्ने भने आउट अफ 10 बिलियन मेट्रिक टन प्रोडक्सनमा त क्लाइमेटको कारणले 1.3 बिलियन चाहिँ हाम्रो लस भइरहेछ। नेपालको सिनारियोमा हेर्ने हो भनेदेखि चाहिँ हामी चाहिँ 10 देखि 36% 1990 को डेटा हो भने पोटाटोमा के अरे क्लाइमेट चेन्जको कारण चाहिँ 37% चाहिँ लसेसहरू भएको थियो। हाम्रो यो प्रब्लमहरू छ, तर त्यसलाई चिर्नको लागि हामीले डेटाजहरूलाई चिर्नको लागि हामीले त कसरी जाने भन्ने कुरामा चाहिँ पहिलो कुरा त हामीसँग अपर्च्युनिटिज हुँदाहुँदै पनि हामीसँग अपर्च्युनिटिजहरू नभएका होइनन्। क्लाइमेट स्मार्ट एग्रिकल्चर अर्थात् चाहिँ एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरबाट इकोनोमीलाई बढी कन्ट्रिब्युसन गर्नको लागि चाहिँ हामीसँग राम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसन छ। राइट टु फुडको कुराहरू कन्स्टिट्युसन असाध्यै राम्रोसँग बोलेको छ। हामीसँग थुप्रै पोलिसिजहरू नभएका हुन्, हामीसँग 3 टायर अफ गभर्मेन्ट नभएको होइन हामीसँग। त्यसपछि हामीसँग फार्मर्स एसोसिएसनहरू, कोअपरेटिभ्सहरू अनि एनजिओ, आइएनजिओहरू, डेभलपमेन्ट पार्टनर्सहरू सबै यही विधामा नभएको होइन, उहाँहरू नलागेको होइन। यी सबै लाग्दै पनि हामीले आशातीत चाहिँ हामीले प्रगति चाहिँ एग्रिकल्चर फुड सेक्युरिटीको दृष्टि गर्न सक्दैन। किन फुड सेक्युरिटी भन्नाले एभाइलेबिलिटी मात्रै भएन, हामीले एक्सेस मात्रै कुरा गर्नु भएन, हामीले चाहिँ त्यसको युटिलाइजेसन मात्रै कुरा होइन, स्टेबिलिटी सबैको कुराहरू सम्भव गर्दाखेरि काहीँ न काहीँ हाम्रा चुनौतीहरू छन्। ती चुनौतीहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले अलिकति पार गर्न सक्यौँ भनेदेखि जस्तो हामीले इनपुट्सको कुराहरू गर्छौँ। इनपुट्स भनेर हाम्रो सिड, हामीले मेजर त सिड, हाम्रो कति ट्रु सिड छ त भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ मेजर, अर्थात् यो कति चाहिँ फार्मर्सहरूले पाइरहेछन्। अहिले ठ्याक्कै उहाँले जोड्नुभयो चाहिँ इरिगेसनको कुराहरू। हाम्रो इरिगेसन पोलिसी 2025 अहिलेको पोलिसीले मलाई लाग्छ कि अहिले चाहिँ 54% चाहिँ कभरेज हुनुपर्ने एराउन्ड इरिगेसन एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टर्स हाम्रो चाहिँ अहिलेको डेटाले चाहिँ 35 त्यो 36% मात्रै गर्छ। त्यसमा पनि क्वालिटी अफ क्लाइमेट चेन्जले क्वालिटी अफ वाटर, इरिगेटेड वाटर त्यो प्रब्लमहरू भइरहेछ। त्यसै गरी हामीले चाहिँ विभिन्न क्लाइमेट चेन्जको कारणले चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ कुनै वर्ष चाहिँ हामीलाई चाहिँ सुक्खा भएको छ, कुनै वर्ष ल्यान्डस्लाइड भएको छ, कुनै वर्ष फ्लड भएको छ। अब यो कारणहरूले पनि हाम्रो ठुलो नक्सानीहरू भइरहेछ। त्यो नक्सानीहरूलाई अहिलेसम्म हामीले चाहिँ अर्ली वार्निङ सिस्टमहरू हुँदै पनि त्यसलाई हामीले प्र्याक्टिसमा इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन ल्याउन सकिरहेको छैनौँ। यसमा के छ भने केही कमजोरीहरू छन् जुनलाई चाहिँ हामीले टाइम सुधार्नुपर्ने छ। जस्तो सुधार्दाखेरि मलाई के लाग्छ भने हामीले सबैभन्दा पहिला त हामीसँग पोलिसिजहरू छन्, कन्स्टिट्युसन छ, सबै कुरा छ, तर इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनमा असाध्यै ठुलो गाह्रो छ। मैले एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरमा हेर्दा त्यसमा इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन कहाँनिर गाह्रो छ भने एग्रिकल्चरको कुरा गर्दाखेरि 3टा फ्याक्टर्स आउँछन्। एउटा चाहिँ रिसर्च, त्यस पछाडि चाहिँ एजुकेसन एन्ड एक्सटेन्सन। यो 3टाहरू एकै लाइनमा चाहिँ जान सकिरहेका छैनन्, त्यसमा चाहिँ प्रब्लम छ। अर्को कुरा फन्डिङ। हामीले अहिले चाहिँ हामी आजको बहस विशेष गरी चाहिँ क्लाइमेट सम्बन्धी भएर चाहिँ हामीले इकोनोमी कसरी कन्ट्रिब्युसन अथवा एग्रिकल्चरको कुरा गर्दाखेरि स्मार्ट एग्रिकल्चर कसरी गर्ने भन्ने कुरा, फन्डिङ हामीले फन्डिङ गरिरहेछौँ र आज हिजोदेखि हामी छलफल गरिरहेछौँ यति बिलियन रुपियाँ ल्याउँ यति ल्याउँ, तर हाम्रो ट्र्याकिङ कस्तो छ त? क्लाइमेट फाइनेन्सको ट्र्याकिङ सिस्टममा एक्सपेन्डिचरको ट्र्याकिङ कति गरिरहेछौँ त? सबैलाई गोलमोटल रूपमा चाहिँ यसलाई चाहिँ लिइरहेका छौँ, अर्थात् यसलाई सेपरेट रूपमा चाहिँ हामीले ट्र्याकिङ गरिरहेछौँ भन्ने कुरा पनि एउटा महत्त्वपूर्ण पाटोको कुरा आउँछ। अब रिसर्चमा असाध्यै लो इन्भेस्टमेन्ट रिसर्चमा छ। त्यसै गरी चाहिँ हामीहरूको क्यापेसिटी बिल्डिङ, अहिले मलाई त लाग्छ दुःख लाग्छ भन्नुपर्दा पनि हामीले चाहिँ एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरको कुरा गर्दाखेरि हामीले 3 तहको सरकार आएपछि सबैभन्दा फङ्सन चाहिँ लोकल गभर्मेन्टमा चाहिँ सबै एग्रिकल्चरको फङ्सन छ। त्यसपछि प्रोभिन्सियल, त्यसपछि सेन्ट्रल गभर्मेन्ट भनेको अर्थात् सङ्घीय सरकारको चाहिँ कोअर्डिनेसनका कुराहरू, अर्थात् चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ बायोलेटरका कुराहरू, त्यसपछि क्वालिटीका कन्ट्रोलका कुराहरू यिनीहरू मात्रै छन्। तर चाहिँ हामीले तलको लेभलको चाहिँ क्यापेसिटी चाहिँ बिल्डिङमा हामीले ध्यान दिन सकेनौँ र जनशक्ति एक त छैन, स्थानीय सरकारको लेभल भए पनि हामीलाई चाहिँ उहाँहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ सक्षम गराउन नसकिरहेको यथास्थिति छ। त्यो कुराहरूलाई र अनि हाम्रो त्यही कोअर्डिनेसन, इन्स्टिट्युसनल एरेन्जमेन्टको कोअर्डिनेसनहरूको असाध्यै गाह्रोहरू भइरहेछ। यी सबै कुराहरूलाई हेर्दाखेरि मलाई के लाग्छ भने हामीले केही न काहीँ हामीले भइरहेको पोलिसी अर्थात् केही करेक्सनहरू गर्नुपर्छ, हामीले करेक्सन गर्नुपऱ्यो। त्यस पछाडि हामीले चाहिँ युथको कुराहरू गर्छौँ, महिलाहरूको कुरा गर्छौँ, जनजातिको कुराहरू गर्छौँ, पछाडि गएका वर्गहरूको कुरा गर्छौँ। उहाँहरूको उत्थान गर्ने भनेको त एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरबाटै हो अल्टरनेटिभ। हुन त हामी चाहिँ टुरिज्म र हाइड्रोको कुराहरू गर्छौँ, तर मैले बोलिरहँदाखेरि एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टर हो। अब एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरमा हिजोदेखि हामीले बहस के गऱ्यौँ भने फरेस्ट्री धेरै चाहिँ क्लाइमेट चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ गर्दाखेरि कन्ट्रिब्युसन चाहिँ फरेस्ट, तर ठ्याक्कै डाक्टर साहबले अलि मर्जी भएपछि 50% फ्रम द एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टर, द्याट टु मोर देन 60% आउट अफ 50% चाहिँ लाइभस्टक सेक्टरबाट छ। अब हामी चाहिँ क्लाइमेट ट्रेडको कुराहरू गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ कार्बन ट्रेडको कुरा गर्दाखेरि एग्रिकल्चरलाई फोकस गर्नु पऱ्यो, फ्रुट ट्रिजहरूलाई फोकस गर्नु पऱ्यो। त्यसमा पनि हाम्रो म्याङ्गोजहरू र एप्पलहरूको त असाध्यै राम्रो छ, अर्थात् सिरियल क्रप्सहरूमा पनि हामी जान सक्ने स्थिति छ। त्यसलाई बढी हामीले फोकस गरेर जान सक्यो भनेदेखि चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ अलिकति राम्रो हुन्छ र चाहिँ हाम्रा ती चाहिँ पछाडि हाम्रो ती युथहरूलाई अर्थात् चाहिँ हाम्रो महिलाहरूलाई जो चाहिँ कृषिमा बढी संलग्न हुनुहुन्छ अर्थात् चाहिँ पछाडि रहेका वर्गहरूलाई समेट्नको लागि पनि यो नितान्त महत्त्वपूर्ण छ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि
छट्याइदिनु पर्ला।
अच्छा, त्यसले गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो मेजर फोकस चाहिँ हामीले यो सेक्टरलाई ब्यालेन्स गरेर कसरी लाने, जसले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ क्लाइमेट स्मार्ट एग्रिकल्चर मात्र होइन, हामीले अर्को चाहिँ फुड सेक्युरिटीको दृष्टिकोण लिएर ट्रेड ब्यालेन्सलाई पनि यसो कन्ट्रिब्युसन असाध्यै धेरै हुने भएकोले त्यसलाई चाहिँ अगाडि लान सक्यो भनेदेखि चाहिँ राम्रो हुन्छ भन्ने चाहिँ मेरो अनुभवले बताउँछ। हस्, थ्याङ्क यू।
धन्यवाद। अब म अघिकै प्रश्नलाई ऊर्जा सुरक्षा भने, तर मैले अहिले गणेशजीलाई चाहिँ विद्युत सुरक्षा मात्रैको दायरामा बसेर आफ्नो धारणा राखिदिन अनुरोध गरेँ।
हस्, धन्यवाद सर। वास्तवमा अघि डाक्टर साहबले अब थुप्रै कुराहरू आइसकेका छ, तथापि जस्तो हामीले जस्तो आजको सिनारीमा भन्दाखेरि 3500 मेगावाट बिजुली उत्पादन भएको छ भनेर हामी भन्छौँ। त्यसमध्ये त भन्दा अझ प्राइभेट सेक्टरको त 2800 मेगावाट छ। र पोटेन्सियलको कुरा गर्दा अब अहिले भर्खरै मन्त्रालयले एउटा निकालेको थियो, त्यसमा चाहिँ झन्डै 1,20,000 मेगावाट छ भनेर भनेको छ। त्यसमा अर्को सोलर त फेरि झन्डै अहिले 42,000 मेगावाट उत्पादन हुन्छ भनेर भनेको छ यसमा। तर आजको दिनमा पनि हामीले इन्डियाबाट बिजुली इम्पोर्ट गरिरहेका छौँ र साँच्चै नै हामी थुप्रै ठाउँमा भोलिका दिनहरूमा जलविद्युतको विकास गर्दै जाँदाखेरि अब थुप्रै ठाउँमा हिमालका फोटोहरू देखाइन्छ। अब हिमाल सुक्दै गयो, पानी आएन भने के हुन्छ भन्ने खालको कुरा पनि थुप्रै ठाउँमा छ। र अर्को कुरा, हामी जस्तो नेपाल झन्डै अब 46% भूभाग चाहिँ वन जङ्गलले ढाकेको छ, 6000 नदी नाला छ भनेर भनिन्छ। र साँच्चै हो भने जलविद्युतको विकास गर्दै जाने हो भने हामीले एउटा रुख काट्दाखेरि 10वटा रुख रोप्छौँ। थुप्रै अब फ्लडहरूको कन्ट्रोलको लागि थुप्रै खालका चाहिँ ड्यामहरू बनाइसकेका हुन्छ। र हामीले साँच्चै नै हो भने अब जलविद्युत सँगसँगै रिन्युएबल एनर्जीमा पनि अलिकति फोकस गर्नुपर्छ होला कि भन्ने खालको लाग्छ। किनभने अहिले नै देख्यौँ, हामीले थुप्रै समाचारहरूमा पढ्यौँ, दिनभरिको बिजुली मात्र दिने भन्ने खालको समाचार पढ्यौँ। अर्को 600 मेगावाट बिजुली माग्दाखेरि 60 मेगावाट मात्रै दियो भन्ने पनि सुन्यौँ। अर्को त अस्ति भर्खर कतिको साँचो हो, 32 रुपियाँमा किन्यौँ भनेर पनि आएछ। तर अब रिन्युएबल मिक्स इनर्जीमा गएर यसलाई अलिकति अगाडि बढाउने र यसले यो विद्युत खपतलाई अलिकति जोड दिनु पर्यो। जस्तो मैले अब धेरै पटक भन्छु, अब सरकारले अलिकति सोच्नु पर्यो, यो ग्यासलाई हामीले सब्सिडी दिइराखेको छौँ, त्यसलाई हटाइदिएर यो इलेक्ट्रिकबाट पकाउने कुरालाई चाहिँ अलिकति जोड दिनु पर्यो, त्यसको सब्सिडी यतापट्टि राखिदिनु पर्यो। अब इलेक्ट्रिकल भेहिकलको कुरा त छ, अब प्रत्येक वर्षमा अब हामी चाहिँ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी खपत गरौँ भनेर भन्छौँ र त्यस्ता खालका वस्तुहरू इम्पोर्ट गर्दाखेरि अब ट्याक्समा अलिकति रिबेट दिनु पऱ्यो भनेर हामी भन्छौँ। तर अब वर्षैपछि ट्याक्सका कुराहरू छ, अब सरकारसँग पैसा छैन भन्ने कुरा छ। अब त्यो सरकारले अलिकति सोच्ने, तर कसरी न कसरी इलेक्ट्रिक यो विद्युतलाई चाहिँ अलिक खपत गराउनेतिर लाग्नु पऱ्यो। किनभने अहिले सरकारले 28,500 मेगावाट उत्पादन गर्ने भनेको छ, अब 15,000 मेगावाट त बेच्ने भनेर भनेको छौँ। तर पनि यो हेर्दै जाँदाखेरि यो हामी 13,000 खपत गर्नको लागि आजकै दिनमा यो मिक्स एनर्जीमा गएन अथवा स्टोरेजतिर गएन, अब त सेमी स्टोरेजतिर नजाने हो भने त यो 60,000 मेगावाट उत्पादन गर्दा पनि यो हामी लोड सेडिङबाट मुक्त हुँदैनौँ कि जस्तो खालको अनुभव हुन थाल्यो। किनभने अब सरकारले ठुल्ठुला बुढीगण्डकी र अरू बनाउने भन्ने, तर वर्षौँदेखि 10-15 वर्ष कुरा मात्रै गर्ने भन्ने, अब निजी क्षेत्रलाई अगाडि बढ भन्ने, तर सधैँ खुट्टा बाँध्या हो कि जस्तो खालको फिल हुँदै जाँदैछ। अब थुप्रै कुराहरू छ। अब यही अहिले 7मा अब 43वटा फाइल रोकिया छ, विद्युत विधेयकको कुराहरू त्यस्तै छ। त्यसले गर्दा कति अगाडि बढ्ने कि नबढ्ने भन्ने खालको कुरा पनि सरकारले अलिकति सोच्नु, कि सरकारले हामीले गरिदिने हो भन्नु पऱ्यो। अब जस्तो कार्बन ट्रेडको कुरामा यति धेरै पैसा आइरहँदो रहेछ भन्ने खालको कुरा भर्खरै हामीलाई ज्ञान भयो। यो सरकारले धेरै अगाडि गर्नुपर्थ्यो, नगरेको कारणले गर्दाखेरि हामीले सुरु गऱ्यौँ र कतिपय कम्पनीहरूले त हामीले डकुमेन्टहरू बुझाइसकेर अगाडि बढाउन थालिसक्यो र कम्तीमा हाम्रा प्रोजेक्टहरूलाई अब अगाडि त बढायौँ, तर त्यसले त्यो साँच्चै नै त्यो ल्याउनको लागि त पोलिसी त सरकारले बनाइदिनु पऱ्यो। त्यो खालको पोलिसी छैन रहेछ। हामी बिचमा अड्किरहेका छौँ। साँच्चै हामीले डाइरेक्टली कुरा गर्न सक्छौँ कि सक्दैनौँ कि थुप्रै खालका इन्टरनेसनल कम्पनीहरू नेपालमा आइसक्न थाले, कार्बनको कुरा गर्न थालिसके। अब धेरै वर्षदेखि अब अहिले त हाम्रो 10 वर्ष 15 वर्ष भइसक्यो उत्पादन भएको, 2 वर्ष अगाडिकालाई मात्रै दिने सिओडी भएको भन्न थालिसक्यो। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि हामीले त धेरै पैसा गुमाइसकेका रहेछौँ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि फोकस अलिकति यो कानुन बनाउँदाखेरि फोकस गर्नुपर्छ, किनभने साना साना यो माइक्रो हाइड्रोहरूले चाहिँ उहाँहरूले गरिराख्नु भएको छ। तर हामीले यति धेरै ठुल्ठुला प्रोजेक्टहरू बनाएको छ, प्राइभेटले पनि बनाएको छ, सरकारले पनि बनाएको छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि त्यसमा अलिकति फोकस गर्नु पर्यो र जतिसुकै कुरा गरे पनि उत्पादनमा जोड नदिने हो भने हामी कहीँ पनि पुग्न सक्दैनौँ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई। किनभने यो सिनारियो हेर्दाखेरि अबको 10 वर्षपछि पनि हामीले यो विदेशबाटै अथवा भारतबाटै बिजुली इम्पोर्ट गरेर लोड सेडिङ मुक्त देश भनेर घोषणा गर्ने हो कि भन्ने खालको पनि देखिन्छ यो हेर्दाखेरि। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि उत्पादनमा अलिकति दिनु पर्यो। यसको लागि त अलिकति पोलिटिकल कमिटमेन्ट चाहिन्छ। यो कसो पनि सरकार धेरै पटक परिवर्तन भयो र नीति पनि सँगसँगै परिवर्तन हुने हो कि जस्तो फिल हुन थालिसक्यो। प्रत्येक सरकार आउने आफ्नो आफ्नो नीति बनाउने भन्ने, अब निजी क्षेत्रलाई अगाडि बढ भन्ने, तर पोलिसीहरूले काहीँ पनि अगाडि बढ भन्ने खालको देखिएन। त्यसैले गर्दाखेरि यसले सरकारले अलिकति पोलिसीमा जोड दिनु पर्यो र उत्पादनमा जोड दिनु पर्यो र मिक्स इनर्जीमा अलिकति जोड दिएर अगाडि जाने हो भने साँच्चै नै यो हामीले सोचे जस्तो अब अहिले त जनसमृद्ध नेपाल र सुखी नेपालीको नारा छ, त्यो पनि पुरा हुन्छ। र त्यो सँगसँगै यो अरू एग्रिकल्चरको कुरा, टुरिज्मको कुरा, त्यसपछि इन्डस्ट्रीको कुरा, इन्डस्ट्रीलाई यो बिजुलीबाट उत्पादन हुने वस्तुहरूलाई अथवा बिजुली प्रयोग बढी गर्नेलाई त्यही खालको सब्सिडिज दिनु पर्यो। कोइलालाई पुरै विस्थापित गर्नु पर्यो र हाइड्रोजनको कुरा आउन थालिसक्यो। कोइलाको साटो त्यसलाई के गर्ने हो भन्ने खालका पोलिसीहरू ल्याएर सरकारले अलिकति अगाडि बढ्नुपर्छ कि भन्ने लाग्छ। हस्, धन्यवाद।
यही क्षेत्रमै रहनुभएको छ हाम्रो किरण जोशीजी। उहाँलाई हाम्रो प्रश्न के हुन्छ भने ऊर्जा सुरक्षाकै लागि हामी रिलायबिलिटी, सस्टेनेबिलिटीको टर्ममा क्लाइमेट चेन्जले पारिरहेको असरलाई हामीले कसरी क्वान्टिफाई गरिरहेछौँ? हामीसँग कुनै टुलहरू डिभाइस गरेका छौँ अथवा के छ यो बारेमा अलिकति बताइदिनु।
अनफर्चुनेट भन्नुपर्छ, हाम्रो डाक्टर लोहनी सरले पनि भन्नुभयो, डाक्टर कार्कीले पनि भन्नुभयो, हाम्रोमा रिसर्च एकदमै नेग्लेक्टेड पार्ट रहेको छ नेपालको कन्टेक्स्टमा हेर्ने भयो भने। रिसर्च टु लार्जर एक्सटेन्ट एकाडेमिसियन अथवा एकाडेमिक फिल्डमा मात्र लिमिटेड छ। कुनै स्पेसिफिक सेक्टर वाइज रिसर्च भएको अथवा चाहिँ एकदम एक्सटेन्सिभ रिसर्च हाम्रो नेपालमा अहिलेसम्म गरिएको छैन। र ऊर्जा क्षेत्रमा पनि क्लाइमेट चेन्जको कारणले गर्दाखेरि हुने मल्टी डाइनामिक्स चाहिँ जुन इम्प्याक्ट छ त्यो इम्प्याक्टको बारेमा रिसर्च अहिलेसम्म भएको छैन। कुनै परियोजनामा क्लाइमेट चेन्जको कारणले, बीट एनिथिङ, फ्लडको कारणले होला अथवा चाहिँ कुनै साल पानी नपरेर हाम्रो एनर्जी चाहिँ प्रोडक्सन कम हुन्छ, त्यता एनर्जी प्रोडक्सन कम हुन्छ भने यता फ्लड अथवा चाहिँ क्लाउड ब्रस्ट अथवा चाहिँ अन्य कारणले गर्दाखेरि लसेसहरू जुन हुन्छ, त्यो लसेस हुँदाखेरि स्पेसिफिक प्रोजेक्टको चाहिँ यस्तो भयो है, यति भयो भनेर क्वान्टिफाईसम्म चाहिँ हामी गर्न सकिरहेका छौँ भने त्यसले ओभरअल म्याक्रो इकोनोमीमा चाहिँ के इन्डिकेट गर्यो अथवा के इम्प्याक्ट गर्यो भनेर हामीले अहिलेसम्म पनि त्यो एसेसमेन्ट गर्न सकिरहेका छैनौँ। त्यो अनफर्चुनेट हो। हामी डाइनामिक, यहाँ धेरैजना मैले डाक्टर साहबहरू पनि देखेँ, रिसर्च पनि गर्नुहुन्छ धेरैजना मैले देखेँ, उहाँहरूले अझ प्रश्न बुझ्नुहुन्छ होला। डाइनामिक इकोनोमेट्रिक्स मोडल भन्छौँ हामी, अथवा रिसर्चमा विभिन्न टुलहरू हामीले युज गर्छौँ। रिसर्च गर्दाखेरि ती टुलहरू युज गरेर साँच्चै नै यो सेक्टरमा चाहिँ यसको कारणले यति धेरै चाहिँ इम्प्याक्ट भयो भनेर कुनै पनि सेक्टरको एकदम एक्सटेन्सिभ रिसर्च नेपालमा गर्न अलिकति गाह्रो पनि छ, बिकज अफ लिमिटेसन्स अन आवर साइड। एउटा कुरा जस्तो हामीले के भनिरहेको छ भने ऊर्जा र विद्युतलाई पनि छुट्याउनुपर्छ। हामी विद्युतको कुरा गरिरहेको छौँ अनि कता कता ऊर्जासँग चाहिँ जोडी पनि रहेको छौँ। अहिले हामी इलेक्ट्रिसिटीको कुरा गरिरहेको छौँ र जब हामी विद्युतको कुरा गर्छौँ, विद्युतको कुरा गर्दा हामीले जहिले पनि के सोचौँ, अहिले नेपालको कन्टेक्स्टमा भने हाइड्रो पावर, सोलर अथवा विन्ड त अब फ्युचरमा आउला, फ्युचरमा अर्को हाइड्रोजन आउला। आजको डेटमा हामीले सोच्न सक्नेसम्म विद्युतको उत्पादनका यी प्रकारहरू हुन् भनौँ न। त्यो अवस्थामा आइपुग्दाखेरि चाहिँ एनर्जी, उहाँले ऊर्जा सुरक्षाको पनि कुरा गर्नुभयो। विद्युत भनेको के हो त? यो प्रडक्ट मात्रै हो त? होइन, यो विद्युत गृहको चाहिँ प्रडक्ट हो, तर अरू धेरै फङ्सनको लागि, इकोनोमीको लागि चाहिँ कसैको लागि बाई प्रडक्ट हो भने, कसैको लागि लाइभलीहुड हो भने, कसैको लागि चाहिँ त्यो र मटेरियलको रूपमा पनि युज भएको छ भनेर हामीले नितान्त बुझ्न जरुरी छ। र जब यसका युजहरू हामीले धेरै जति ठाउँमा छ भनेर हामीले आइडेन्टिफाई गर्छौँ, त्यसपछि नै बल्ल रिसर्चको कुरा आउँछ। त्यसपछि नै यसले कहाँ इम्प्याक्ट पारेछ त? एउटा विद्युत गृह कुनै कारणले बन्द हुँदाखेरि, क्लाइमेट चेन्जको कारणले बन्द हुँदाखेरि, त्यसले त्यो विद्युत मात्र बन्द गरेको होइन बाबा, त्यसले त डिजास्टरस रूप लिइसक्यो। त्यसले डाउनस्ट्रिम कस्तो इम्प्याक्ट गर्यो होला? त्यसले त्यो विद्युत बन्द हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो एनर्जी जब हामीले आउँदैन, त्यो ग्रिडबाट चाहिँ इमिट हुँदैन, त्यो ग्रिडबाट इमिट नहुँदाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो युजरहरू अथवा कन्ज्युमरहरू जुन कन्जम्सन भन्छौँ हामी, त्यो कन्जम्सनको प्याटर्न कस्तो भयो होला भनेर अहिलेसम्म पनि हामीले त्यो लेभलको रिसर्च चाहिँ नगरिसकेको हुनाले यहाँ मैले डक्टर साहबहरू पनि देखेको छु, युनिभर्सिटीसँग पनि एफिलिएटेड व्यक्तिहरू देखेको भएको हुनाले यहाँहरूका कोर्सहरू पनि होलान्, करिकुलम पनि होलान्। अधिकांश मैले देखेको छु एकाडेमिसियनहरू चाहिँ अलिकति आफ्नो प्रोफेसनल ग्रोथसँग रिलेटेड मात्रै रिसर्च गरेको देख्छु, तर इन्डिभिजुअल प्रोफेसनल ग्रोथ होइन, सेक्टरल ग्रोथको लागि चाहिँ स्पेसिफिक मिसन बनाएर चाहिँ स्टडी गर्यो भने डेफिनेटली पनि हामीले केही न केही यसको इम्प्याक्टहरू कस्तो रहन्छ भनेर चाहिँ हामीले बुझ्न सक्छौँ। किनभने यो एउटा प्रडक्ट मात्रै होइन, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी भनेको बाई प्रडक्ट पनि हो, कसैको लागि र मटेरियल हो, कसैको लागि सुरक्षाको एउटा चाहिँ एउटा कण हो भनौँ न, होइन? त्यस कारणले यसलाई चाहिँ अलिकति म्याक्रो लेभलबाट हेर्न सक्यो भने चाहिँ अनि त्यसपछि यसका इम्प्याक्टका कुराहरू चाहिँ आउँछन् जस्तो लाग्छ। हजुर,
हस्, धन्यवाद किरणजी। अब हामीसँग समय थोरै छ, दोस्रो राउन्डमा जान सायद भ्याउँदैन। अब फ्लोरबाट केही जिज्ञासाहरू छन् भने हामी 2-4वटा जिज्ञासा लिन्छौँ अनि कृपया छोटो रूपमा राखिदिनु होला, जवाफ दिन पनि छोटो हुने गरेर। हामीसँग जम्मा 10 मिनट जस्तो छ।
सबैलाई नमस्ते, मेरो नाम कपिल अधिकारी, म चाहिँ सेन्ट्रल डिपार्टमेन्ट अफ इन्टरनेसनल रिलेसन्स एन्ड डिप्लोमेसीमा मास्टर्स गर्दैछु अहिले।
अनि एउटा कुरा प्रश्नकालाई सोध्दै हुनुहुन्छ, त्यो पनि भनिदिनु पर्छ।
मेरो प्रश्न चाहिँ प्राइमेरीली हाम्रो फर्मर ब्युरोक्रेट्सहरूलाई रह्यो। इन्स्टिट्युसनल आर्किटेक्चरको कुरा गर्दै राख्दा हाम्रो ब्युरोक्रेसीको अब्लिगेसन्सहरू के हो, फेलियर्सहरू के हो, अनि त्यो फेलियर्सहरूलाई चिर्नको लागि चाहिँ स्ट्राटेजिजहरू के हुन् त? किन भन्दाखेरि यहाँहरूले
यो साह्रै अमूर्त प्रश्न हुन्छ। अहिले भएका प्रस्तुतिमा यहाँहरूको के चिज जिज्ञासा छ भने राखौँ, त्यो विषयमा हामी छुट्टै पनि छलफल गर्न सकौँला। हामी
म यसलाई फलोअप पनि गर्छु। कार्बन न्युट्रल इकोनोमीमा ट्रान्जिसन गर्नलाई इन्स्टिट्युसनल, हाम्रो टपिक त इन्स्टिट्युसनल आर्किटेक्चर रोड म्याप एन्ड इन्स्टिट्युसनल आर्किटेक्चर भन्नुभएको छ। इन्स्टिट्युसनल आर्किटेक्चरमै प्रब्लम छ कि छैन भन्ने चाहिँ मेरो प्रश्न हो। त्यसैले यो रिलेटेडै छ जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई चाहिँ।
नमस्कार, मेरो नाम अनिरुद्र नेउपाने हो। मैले यहाँ जिज्ञासाको रूपमा चाहिँ अहिले बिन्दु सरले गर्नुभएकै प्रस्तुतिलाई जोडेर लास्टमा सुमन म्यामले ल्याउनु भएको कुरालाई लिङ्क गर्न खोज्छु। आशा छ यो रिलेभेन्ट हुन्छ। हामीले यो 45सम्म जुन नेट जिरो नेपालको हिसाबले जिरो एमिसनको कुरा गरिरहेछौँ भने अहिले सरले भन्नुभएको यो विभिन्न सेक्टरहरूलाई हेर्दाखेरि र अहिले सुमन म्यामले भन्नुभएको हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ इनर्जीमा फोकस गरेर जाने हो भनेदेखि चाहिँ हाम्रो म्यानुफ्याक्चरिङ अथवा इन्डस्ट्री सेक्टर, त्यस पछाडि ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन सेक्टर अनि अर्को बायोग्यास जोड्नु भएको थियो हाउसहोल्ड सेक्टर। यो सबैबाट हुने एमिसनलाई एकमुष्ट रूपमा जाने भएको हुनाले हामीले अलिकति स्टडी फोकस गर्ने हो भने हामी इनर्जी फोकस र अनि फेरि मेरो यसमा फलोअप क्वेसन चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने इनर्जी सेक्टर इभन हाम्रो हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी पनि एमिटिङ सेक्टर चाहिँ हो, नन एमिटिङ सेक्टर त होइन। जिरो एमिसन हो भने चाहिँ यो चिजलाई चाहिँ फेरि के हुन्छ त, यो चाहिँ मेरो थ्योरिटिकल क्वेसन नजानेको हिसाबले हजुरहरूको एक्सपर्टिज यसमा आओस् भनेर मैले यो दुईवटा कुरा लिङ्क गर्न खोजेँ। हस्, थ्याङ्क यू।
अरू प्रश्न आएन। मैले डाक्टर साहबलाई अनुरोध गरेँ, डाक्टर बिन्दु सरलाई यी दुईटै प्रश्नको लागि यो जवाफ आइसकेको थियो जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई। त्यही पनि
Okay, talking about the institutional architecture, I think मैले भने पनि गरेँ, the current arrangement and available institutional architecture is, in my opinion, inadequate for the government or the private sector collectively for Nepal to deliver its 2045 carbon neutral modality. त्यही भएर मैले अहिले एउटा council त छ, there is a council I understand in the Prime Minister's office. I suggest this have something like a Singaporean model where is the Prime Minister, it looks at the strategy for the country, it provides instruction to the cabinet and then to the each sector. Transport walalai bhन्छ कि okay, this is our 2045 roadmap. Now you make your roadmap on the transport sector, agriculture sector, energy sector. I don't think we have something like that. So this is critical for that. The Arkoda, you asked the energy. Energy is one of the most important sector. The energy transition भने त अहिले सबैमा बायोग्यास भने पनि त्यही हो, हामीले solar, whether we talk about hydro, talk about EVs, it's all energy transition. And so this is really going to be number one. तर नेपालको लागि emission हाम्रो यो agriculture sector मा बढेको त हाम्रो emissions is increasing through the agriculture sector more than any other sector. So we need to tackle that. अनि हामीले योगनजीले मैले कुरा गरे जस्तै 50%, 60% reduction is possible. त्यसको लागि we need to change the way we do agriculture. So this is where I will say, but yes, energy is still very, very important, but don't forget the agriculture and the forests and the land use, because that is what Nepal emits most as is greenhouse gas.
म अलिकति थप्दिउँ। यहाँले राख्नुभएको क्वेसन अघि नै सायद यहाँले इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बाट चाहिँ एमिसन हुन्छ, कसरी ट्रेड अफ हुन्छ भन्न सोध्नु भएको हो भने नेपालको कन्टेक्स्टमा यदि हामी इलेक्ट्रिसिटीको कुरा गर्छौँ भने एनर्जी र इलेक्ट्रिसिटी त्यही भएर फरक हो भनेको इलेक्ट्रिसिटी प्रोडक्सन इज ओन्ली फ्रम रिन्युएबल सोर्स अफ एनर्जी अहिले पनि सम्भवतः फ्युचरमा पनि हुनसक्छ हाम्रो सिफ्ट चाहिँ हुन सक्ला वाटरबाट चाहिँ वी मे गो टु हाइड्रोबाट हामी सोलर विन्ड अथवा हाइड्रोजनमा जान्छौँ होला अल दिस फर्म्स आर रिन्युएबल सोर्स अफ एनर्जी र हामीले चाहिँ यो जुन इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिङ प्रड्युस्ड बाई आवर हाइड्रो पावर प्रोजेक्ट छ त्यो चाहिँ नन इमिटिङ हो है त्यसले चाहिँ कार्बन डाइअक्साइड इमिट गर्दैन उल्टा त्यसले चाहिँ के गर्छ भने had not been using those electricity from our own source of त्यो हाम्रो आफ्नो विद्युत गृहबाट उत्पादन भएको विद्युत यदि हामीले खपत नगर्ने हो भने हामीले कहाँबाट गर्नुपर्छ भने हामीले त फसिल फ्युलबाट गर्नु पर्यो अथवा हामीले इम्पोर्ट गर्नु पर्यो इम्पोर्ट गर्दा हामीले ब्ल्याक एनर्जी भन्छौँ अथवा ग्रिडमा चाहिँ हामीले ब्ल्याक एनर्जी भन्छौँ त्यो चाहिँ बरु CO2 एमिटिङ वान अफ द फ्याक्टर हो CO2 एमिटिङको फ्याक्टर हो त नेपालको प्रोडक्सन एज अफ नाउ चाहिँ रिन्युएबल सोर्स अफ एनर्जी हो र त्यो त्यसमा चाहिँ कार्बन डाइअक्साइड एमिसन हुँदैन भन्ने हो तर यहाँले फेरि एनर्जीसँग रिलेट गर्नुभएको हो भने पक्कै पनि डाक्टर लोहनीले पनि त्यसलाई चाहिँ रेस्पोन्स गरिसक्नु भएको छ फसिल फ्युलबाट पनि हामीले जुन घरमा दाउराहरू युज गर्छौँ अथवा चाहिँ अन्य मेथडबाट चाहिँ हामीले इलेक्ट्रिफाई गरेका छौँ अथवा चाहिँ ऊर्जा खपत गर्छौँ, त्यो चाहिँ झन्डै 55-60% रहेको छ, जुन यद्यपि घट्दो क्रममा छ। त्यसलाई चाहिँ हामीले डेफिनेटली सेट अफ गर्नुपर्छ। थ्याङ्क यू।
धन्यवाद छ किरणजी। हामीलाई निर्धारण गरिएको समय सकिएको छ। म सबै प्यानलिस्टहरूप्रति आभार व्यक्त गर्दछु र यहाँहरूले राख्नुभएका विचारहरू हाम्रो आगामी दिनमा एउटा मार्गनिर्देशन बन्नेछन् र हामी यसै परिवेशमा र यहाँ उठान भएका विषयहरूलाई हेरेर नै हामी आगामी कार्यदिशाहरू तय गर्नेछौँ, हाम्रो रणनीतिहरू तय गर्नेछौँ। यो सेक्टर नै यति बृहत छ कि यहाँ हामी महिनौसम्म बहस चलाएर पनि कहीँ कतै नपुग्न सक्ने पनि अवस्था आउनसक्छ। किन जलविद्युत क्षेत्र भयो, ऊर्जा क्षेत्र भयो, यो देशमा सबैभन्दा बढी बहस गरिएको क्षेत्र हो र अहिले पनि मतैकता भइसकेको विषय है नि यसको प्रयोगको सम्बन्धमा। र यति भन्दै म फेरि पनि हाम्रो प्यानलिस्टहरूलाई धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु र हाम्रो आयोजकलाई पनि मलाई यो मौका दिनुभएकोमा आभार व्यक्त गर्दै यो सत्र यहीँ समापन भएको जानकारी गराउँछु। हस्त, धन्यवाद यहाँहरूको समयको लागि।